As we continue through our Lenten journey and through our sermon series, I will attempt to impart some wisdom on how God would appreciate us, you and I, dealing with any hate we might have in our lives. But before I get started with that, I would just like to share that I find it rather ironic that I am preaching on hate on the Sunday when we are going to gather around our extended table and celebrate the communion feast together. File that little bit of information away, because we're going to come back to that in a little while. First, hate as a verb. It's a very intense or passionate dislike for someone or something, like Brussels sprouts. Or maybe we have a strong aversion to something, like flying, or maybe liver. It can be used politely to express regret. Excuse me, I'm so sorry, I hate to bother you. And as a noun, it's intense and passion dislike, or maybe even brings on feelings of revenge. And then there's the hostile actions motivated by intense dislike or prejudice. Maybe a hate campaign. Hate is a very, very strong word. It's a strong descriptive emotion, which, if we're honest with ourselves, we all struggle with hate. Take a moment to think about it. How many of us say how much we hate traffic in our area? As a matter of fact, driving up here today, I was sitting in traffic thinking, I really hate this traffic. Or we hate liver. Yep, when I was a kid, liver and onions was something that my parents enjoyed. Not me. Or maybe we hate the political climate that our country has been in the past few years. It's a very descriptive word that holds a lot of power. And it can hold a significant amount of power when we are referring to hate and people. And it can be very destructive when we think of hate and people. Isn't it interesting in our passage from Ecclesiastes, we read that there is a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for war and a time for peace. When is there ever a time for hate or hating? Sin. Sin. Sin is a good time for us to hate. We should hate sin. Seems logical, right? We should hate the sin in our lives. We should hate the sin in our world. We should hate the sin that we see others do. But, my friends, we should never, ever hate the sinner. Only the sin. I know that sounds so very, very easy. I've been there. It's not long ago now, but I was in a situation when someone had done something really wrong towards me. I was struggling something awful to get this all resolved in my head, because I knew, according to my faith, that I was called to love that person that had done that thing against me. Honestly, I was struggling even to like that person, let alone be able to forgive them for what they had done. But for me, I couldn't separate the sin from the sinner. It was just engulfing me. I couldn't let it go. And it was doing a number on my very soul, the very core of who I am and my faith. Finally, A very wise counselor that I was seeing to help me work through the situation said to me, "Let God take that burden off of you. God will deal with the person. Let God love the person." You know what? It helped. It helped in amazing ways. I was finally able to let go of the situation and the sin that was working so destructively in my own being that it was destroying me. I'm always amazed at the powerful strength that people have to forgive someone who has done some of the most horrific crimes against them. We hear about it in the news often. A family who has experienced a family member who has been murdered. But yet, somehow, they are able to come to this realization that if hate consumes them, they won't be able to move forward. They're able to forgive that person who has taken their loved one away from them. And still in Ecclesiastes, we read about a time for war and a time for peace. Now, this could be actual physical war going on in whatever part of the region of our world, which we all pray that war will end and we will have peace throughout our world. But the war and the peace could also easily be within ourselves. As we try and let go of any hate that is beginning to consume us, where we seek that the peace that only God can provide to help us to let that hate go. You've all heard about the church being broken into. Well, that same day my car was broken into. And it's not a matter of hating the individual that broke the windows in my car. Did they annoy me? Yes. But it was hating that feeling of the invasion of privacy of my car. Yeah, it was annoying. I had to get it fixed, all of those little things. But it wasn't until a colleague mentioned the hate of the invasion of privacy. Yep, that's it. And as you've all heard about the church, that's probably what many are feeling too. Somebody invaded our church, the place that we love. Thankfully, we've got God, and we can let go of all of that. Because you see, if we were to hold grudges against the people that came into the church and the people that broke into my car, it's just holding on to hatred in our hearts. And that's not going to do any of us any good. So when we look at the passage from 1 John, if we go back a little bit, we see that there is the discussion again about the new commandment, which really isn't the new commandment. It's a reminder of the new commandment. So it's kind of the old commandment renewed. We're supposed to love one another. It's the greatest commandment that's been given to us. We have to let go of that hate and love one another. You see, what John is wanting us to understand, that if we are hanging on to the hate in our lives, we're living in darkness. We're letting something like that person had to me to consume our very soul deep within. But when we let go of hate, it is so beautiful and light, much like our day to day. Blue skies are smiling on us. The sun is shining. The rain has stopped. It's even, well, as I call it, sunroof open weather. It's almost 60 degrees outside. Ah, the hate that has been removed from us. You see, when we come to this table, it's a light for us. And I can only imagine what Jesus was going through on the night that he shared this feast with his disciples. Remember, one of his good friends had just betrayed him. His other good friends didn't know what was lying ahead. Was Jesus feeling hate in his heart towards those who were going to crucify him? Maybe, after all, Jesus was human. But yet, he sat at table with his disciples and shared the amazing feast of love that we are going to share today. So, my friends, we need to remember that we've got to let go of the hate. Otherwise, we're just going to do nothing but stumble in the darkness. And if you've ever stumbled in the darkness and run your toe into a table leg, you know how painful that is. That's what hate does to us when we're consumed in that darkness. So, let's see clearly now. Hate is gone, and we're on our way. And as we continue through this journey of Lent, I ask you to think about what are the Brussels sprouts and the liver in your lives that you need to let go. Because, my friends, hate is not worth it. Amen.